Welcome to another episode of This Isn't About Me podcast. And I'm very, very excited today to be joined by my fun, hilarious, super sweet friend, Tara. And I'm going to let her introduce herself in a second. But I was trying to remember the other day when we actually met, if it was in a Facebook group before Shine, or did we know each other before we met in person in Kelowna at Shine Live? That was my question.
Oh, geez, that's a good question because I was going to say we met in person in New York.
No, we already knew each other then, I thought. Didn't we? Oh, no, we did meet
I think we
there.
met in New York.
Yeah, we met in the elevator. You're right. That was our first time meeting, right?
Yes,
Oh,
we met in
okay.
New York at Soul
Yes,
Sparkle with
yes.
Haley, and I drank all the champagne that was available that night. I don't think Haley was delighted, and I was very loud, and you found me very entertaining. It was so much
Yes.
fun. Which hotel were we at? We were at the
We were at the
Plaza.
plaza and
We're
we
all
met in the
dressed up,
hotel
sparkly,
in the
fancy.
elevator. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. That's what it
Yes,
was.
and Haley, I'm positive did not appreciate me, but I had such a fun time.
Oh, well, I clearly had a fun time too, because here we are, almost 5 years later, still talking and still enjoying
Yeah.
each other's company and still laughing our pants off with each other. So I'm glad we met in the elevator that night. And
Yes.
would love for you to feel free to introduce yourself a little bit, quick little overview of you before we dive into all the good stuff about
Okay. Well,
who Tara is.
um, hi there. I am Tara Leduc. I have lived 14 past lives in this current present life. I now live in the Yukon. I'm back almost in my hometown, an hour away from my mom, who is elderly and turning 90 this year. I am a mentor and teacher of intuition
Mm.
and also a wealth building coach because I have been financially free for many years, 15 years, because I've made wise and lucky investments in real estate.
I
So
like
that's
it.
who I am.
I love
Mhm.
it. Um, Also of note, your mom is like a super badass. Like
Yeah, yeah. So,
she's a
in,
hardy, badass woman, as I recall from a previous conversation, Yukon woman.
yes, yeah, my mother is deranged. She she is well, now that COVID's over, she's back to competing in orienteering. She is internationally ranked for her age category in orienteering, which is a map, using maps and heading through the forest. And there she is, like, little gray hair. She uses readers that are like four times, what do you call it? I'm
Magnified.
like going through all the video. Yeah, thank you. I was like reflection. No, no. Anyways, yeah. So she uses like 4x readers to read her maps because they're teeny tiny, and then away she goes. And she's only 5'2", or she was when we last measured her. She's little, and away she goes through the forest. And you best not tell her she can't do anything because she will tell you you are wrong. And she's like, at age 76, she was a world champion. She's regularly North American champion. Yeah, and like last summer, she went to the Canada, what do they call it? The plus 65 games, I think they're called. They used to be
Mm,
the seniors games. And so, yeah, last year at age 89, she started learning how to dragon boat. Yeah,
wow. I'm obsessed with your mom. She's so cool.
everyone's obsessed with my mom.
I wish I knew her in real life, but what I know about her, I'm like, she is such a badass and
Mhm. Yeah,
clearly
she's a
where you
maniac.
get it from.
Well, as my friend Dana always used to say, if you plant a potato, you get a potato.
Oh my God. Oh man. All right. Well, thank you for being here and for being open to sharing your journey and your heart with us. And so you mentioned you've lived 14 lives in this lifetime. So I say we just dive into that and
Mm,
tell me all the things.
okay. Well, let's see. So I was born and raised in the Yukon, which for anybody who doesn't know, this is just east of Alaska. So I'm a long way north. And
Yeah, what is that like to grow up there? Were there other kids there that like grew up with you? I picture it being like so
it's just igloos and dog sleds, man.
what is life even up there? I see your pictures and it's like a lot of just land and landscape. I'm
That
like,
is correct. Oh,
how many
well,
people live up there?
okay, so growing
And it's
up,
very
I think,
cold and it snows all the time.
okay, well, and apparently this is going to be Mythbuster episode for all the Southerners. Yeah, we
Okay,
don't have
yeah.
cell phones and we communicate by smoke signals.
Yeah.
And anyway,
Educate me on living in the Yukon.
okay, so when I grew up here, it was a town of, I think it was 15,000, 18,000 by the time I graduated high school. My grad class was, I want to say 180.
Oh,
So not
wow.
tiny, tiny.
That's
Yeah,
bigger
like,
than my graduating class, and I was the
right.
biggest
So
class to
just,
ever go through
yeah,
my
so
town.
cool your jets over there of I'm so isolated. Settle down. So,
This is going to be a whole episode of us just laughing. I feel terrible for everybody who has to listen to this.
no, it's fun to listen to
I
laughter.
know.
It's
I love it.
joyful.
This is why I
Uh,
love our conversations.
okay, shh, let me talk. And so I was actually, interestingly enough, I graduated with the top grades in the Yukon, which was just show up and go to class really was how I did it. And I was one of those kids who was involved in everything. I was on, the grad council and the yearbook, and I was in concert band after school and stage band in the morning. And I had a job teaching swimming after school and on Saturday mornings. And I was just one of those people who was, I just like to be busy all the time and I'd go
Hmm.
home to go to sleep.
Yeah, you're a busy
And
lady.
yeah, it's kind of my jamming packing lifestyle that I'm trying to undo in my 50s. And I went out to University of British Columbia at age 17 because I'm a December baby, so I was young and
Mm,
I was cocky as all young people are.
hmm.
And so at that time, I think there were 35,000 people in the entire Yukon territory, and there were 40,000 people on campus at
Wow.
UBC. Um, so ginormous shocker. I didn't really flourish. It was a massive shock to me to find out that I was not actually necessarily very smart. Like when you show up in a university where there's so many smart people, I was just, I don't know, pretty
One in a
average, which
crowd.
is
Yeah.
well, and that's a disappointing thing to find out at 17.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have to learn that sometime.
Yeah, exactly. So that was
We're
sad.
not
So
as
I didn't
special as we think
flourish.
we are.
No. And yet we are. Leanne, you are
I mean,
special.
we
You're
are,
a
yes.
diamond.
Yes, we both are. But
Yeah.
in the
But
grand scheme of the thing, right? It's like,
yeah,
yeah, just an average person.
yeah. And had I been competing against high school students in a province of 1 or 2 million, I would not have had top grades. But oh well.
That's
Anyway,
okay. Hey, take it.
it is what
Take
it
it while
is.
you
It
can,
is what it
right?
is.
Why not?
Absolutely. Uh, so I spent a long time at school because it was fun and it was interesting. After that first year, I was obligated to take a year off. And so I actually spent 5 months traveling across Asia solo at age
Mm,
19.
Wow.
I went Hong Kong to London overland at
Wow.
19.
Holy
So
smokes. I didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, they raise them wild up here. My husband is like, I think he maybe thought I was a little wild when we were down south, but now that we're up here and he's starting to meet the people that I grew up with, he's like, oh,
Oh, it makes so much
oh, that's
sense.
just how they are. Um, one of our neighbors who I went to school with, like, just so you know how normal I am for here and how not wild, how much all the potatoes are here. Michelle Michelle was the best figure skater growing up, and she was so pretty and so coordinated and elegant. She was the popular girl growing up. And in her early 20s, she met a dude in the bush, and he had dog teams, and she liked it, and she thought it was fun. And she is like an internationally successful dog musher.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
cool.
she's the same age as me. She would be 54, which is pretty old for doing such a physical job. And she's out like in the true wilderness. Like I have power, right? I have running water, and she's in the legit true wilderness 24 hours a day, racing with her team of dogs.
Wow.
She competes in the Iditarod and the Yukon Quest. Like she does 1,000-mile races with her dogs.
Oh my God.
It's
That's so
incredible.
cool. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. And I had no idea it's like a massive endurance sport. I did a race with her last, like a running race, a running relay in the fall. And I found out that she could just have a big dinner and run a full marathon tomorrow. Like
Oh my God.
that's the fitness she maintains all the time.
That's insane.
Yeah. So this is not about me, apparently. I'm telling you about obviously
This is about
my
everybody else.
mother, and there's Michelle.
The thing is, it's not about me. It's about whoever else wants to be part of it.
Well,
That's the whole
apparently I'm
point.
following the theme. It's not about me either. Anyway,
It
so
is. It is.
there's Michelle, and she's my neighbor, and I am in awe of this woman. I just can't believe what she can do. But anyway, so there I was at college and then university, and I eventually got a degree in soil science and agriculture. Like nobody saw that coming.
What?
Right? Like, look at your little frowny face. You're like, what?
What?
Well,
I
you
thought
do
you were
know
gonna
I'm,
say like no, I thought you were gonna say like economics or something.
no, economics is something I'm not good at. It's one of those subjects I'm not very good at. I am, no, I, at university, I kept changing my major. My boyfriend at the time teased me that I had a degree in second year because I kept changing my major. I spent 4 years in second year, and I kept
I mean,
changing, flipping around.
but this is part of okay, sorry.
Yeah,
Not
no, good.
not to waylay the story because we'll come back.
Mhm, mhm,
But this is part of I have such an issue now with college and like this pressure to go to college. And I say all the time that I kind of hope my kids don't, unless they're
mhm.
really like passionate about like being a doctor or being a teacher or something you actually really need a degree for. Because
Agreed.
otherwise, it's just like it's a like a very expensive
Mhm.
entryway into being an adult where you just live in a dorm with a bunch of people your same age. I had an idea years ago to just own a dorm and just let the kids like do college, but not
Mm,
with the classes and the costs where they go to work, but they all live together and
that is a
learn how to
fun,
live.
that's a fun idea.
Yeah. So someone
Um,
feel free to invent that
oh,
because I'm
like
like,
every kid should at a minimum do a gap year,
yeah,
right? Or start in a community college and do a little dabbling.
Yeah, I took a year off too.
Everyone should.
And in that
How
year
do you
I nannied
possibly
for
know?
kids and I was like, I do not
See, there you
want to
go.
get
You
knocked
crossed
up
something off.
or have kids after that.
See, there it is.
But yeah, it's funny that you say that because I mean,
Mhm.
I took a year off and I went to 3 colleges before I finally like was able to really get my shit together and graduate and be done.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I'm about to finally pay off my loan like this September
Oh
and
my
I'm
God.
37 years old, right? And it's like, why I get why we did it, but I'm like, why are we now, is that like the only course of that people
Um,
have a future in? It's like, come on, like what are we doing right now, you know?
mhm.
Drives me crazy. And it's funny to hear your story like
Oh,
similarly. It's like you could have just not wasted that time and money and like gone and done
well,
a million other things.
luckily in Canada, school is more expensive now, but I came
Right.
out after all those million years debt free because I used to get good summer jobs and I learned how to be good with money pretty early. I was raised with good money skills.
Yeah.
That's something we could talk about for a while.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about good money skills.
yeah, because this is something I'm really passionate about, actually, and it's not that exciting, but it's like it's make or break for your life.
It is
So I guess in a
exciting,
way it
actually.
is exciting. So I was raised, my mom was a my mom was a retired physician, so we were not short of cash, but my mom is pretty frugal. Anything we wanted to do for school or a course, I like because there weren't many people up here, I used to go with Girl Guides or Pathfinders and go to different provinces and go across the country. And I went even to an international camp in Scotland. And mom was always on board with that kind of thing. I was a competitive swimmer when I was little. She was on board with swimming and coaching and traveling for swimming, right? Like that was, and similarly, when I was in band, she was on board with buying instruments, right? Like all of that kind of stuff. We were not short of money. So that was, she would never blink an eye about wanting to do that. But as a little girl, she used to give me $1 a week allowance, right? When your kids are little, like they probably still think $1 is like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
$1. Because,
Mm-hmm.
and so when I was little, so first I got a hamster. I saved up and I got a hamster. But she didn't just let me off the hook. I had to get the hamster, I had to get the cage, I had to get the shavings, I had to get the food. So it took me months and months and months and months to save up for
Yeah.
this little guy. And I think a hamster probably costs $3 or $4. But
Yeah.
if it
But
takes you
all
a
the
month to save
stuff.
for that, and then another 25 bucks for stuff, like it took me most of a year to save for this. I'm used to go see the hamsters in the store. And this taught me delayed gratification. And it really teaches pride in your own accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
When you wait for something, when you earn it like that, it's a pretty big deal when you get the
Mm-hmm.
hamster. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, then I became entrepreneurial as all tiny children are. And I was like, I'm going to get another one, and they're going to have babies, and I'm going to sell the babies. And I was convinced that someone in the pet store told me they would buy my babies. So, so I like rolled up there one day after I bought hamster number two. No, I'd gotten into gerbils at that point, diversify my
As
holdings.
we do.
Yes. So I had gerbils and I show up with these like baby gerbils. Oh, you said you would buy them off me for $4 each. I'm sure they thought the little 9-year-old was just cuckoo bananas, but I feel like they paid for my gerbils.
They paid
But
you $1 for all of your gerbils.
I have I'm pretty sure I have a feeling that I did not understand markup and profitability. So I
Yeah,
probably assumed that if I buy a gerbil for $4, they would buy it off me for $4,
right.
right? Because kids don't know stuff like that. But anyway, so I did.
Oddly, my 7-year-old does actually really get it, which is hilarious to
Oh,
me. He,
that's really cool.
yeah, a couple of last weekend, my dad took him to this like woodworking show,
Mhm,
and he made he whittled down this little pen. You like buy a kit for $13, and the guy was at the show like showing them how to do it. He whittled down like the
mhm.
cartridge part. He
How
whittled
great.
it down, made his pen, and he comes home and he's like, I'm gonna sell this pen for $29 and go buy another kit and go make more pens and then sell those ones. And I was like, wow, I'm like really impressed with the way your brain works. You can do that
Yeah.
math.
Oh, well, let's loop back. So that's like learning how to look at your numbers, learning the courage to look at your numbers if you're not making what you used to, if it can be very shameful to look
Mm-hmm.
at your numbers
Mm-hmm.
and
I
be
identify.
carrying debt, be not making the number that you think you should be making. We have a lot of conversation in entrepreneurial space, maybe especially on online entrepreneurs, about charge what you're worth. And it's so triggering because if you're a solopreneur, and especially if you're offering as a coach, as a mentor from your heart, right? Like this isn't, I'm selling widgets and I think this widget is worth $5 and you don't think it's worth $5. Well, carry on.
Yeah. And you
Go
also
to
know the
go to
cost that goes
wall
into
widget.
it, right?
Yeah, go to
And you
wall widget
can,
and
it's
buy over there.
easier
Like,
to do that
mhm,
math too. It costs me,
yeah,
$2 to get this widget
mhm,
made,
mhm,
and I can easily sell it for 5, right? There's like it's a such an easier line to look at when you have
yes,
that data versus I am an intuitive healer coach and I can do stuff for you and I'm just delivering from my heart, right? It
mhm. Well, and
there's
it's
no like
you even
easy
use the
number.
word, I can deliver stuff for you, right? Like, uh, I'm not calling you on your words. It's that what an intuitive healer and coach does often, it's a change in how you feel, it's a change in your perception. It is, these are non-tangible, often difficult to measure things.
Mhm.
And how do you price that? It's
Mhm.
very difficult. And then if you speak to a prospective customer and they're like, oh, that sounds like so much money, that's too expensive. And like it gets very hard to say, is my service worth $2,000? I believe it is. You don't believe it is. This feels very personal because it's like something of me that I'm giving.
Mhm.
Can be
Yeah.
very, very challenging. So
Mhm.
charge what your worth is just fraught with drama until you can figure out how to press pause
Do you have
on
a
that kind of
solution?
conversation. Do I have an easy? There's no such thing as an easy solution. I actually think it's spiritual entrepreneurs have a million methods for pricing, right? Our mutual friend Megan Alton taught me one where you write all the prices that you're thinking about doing on pieces of paper and flip them face down on the floor and start standing on them and let yourself pick it that way. Is
Mm.
that scientific? No, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people use a pendulum to help decide. Is that scientific? No. I think I have a pricing example for you. I launched a course called Be a Money Manifesting Machine. And I used to teach it as a masterclass. And it's a lot of content and it's a framework that I downloaded. Like I was floating in the hot tub one day and all of a sudden I knew a system for manifesting money. And it all came
I love
down
that.
and I got a very clear message at the same time. teach it this week. Like, do not sit on this, teach it this week. So I did. I'm not great at listening to that kind of instruction, but I did. I taught it right away, and I taught it a few times. And then I kind of knew there's so much in this. It would be better if it was a longer course, right? Spend more time on each part of it. So I finally launched it last fall. Sold it in a Black Friday offering, and that got it rolling before Christmas. And I was like, oh, and I toyed with a bunch of prices, right? Should it be $55? Well, that's really cheap for a 6-week course.
Yes.
Right? Should it be 99? Should it be 155? Should it be 222? And so I fiddled around with all these different prices and what did I feel I could charge? And lots of voices about other people charge for 6 weeks. It could be $500, it could be $1,000, it could be
Yeah,
$1,500,
1,500. Yeah.
right? Like I've spent that kind of money, but I did not feel comfortable receiving that. So in the end, the way I joined someone's Black Friday offering. She pooled a bunch of entrepreneurs and put all the offerings all on one page. And in the intake form, she's like, what's the price you're charging now? And what's the regular price? So the price I decided was $222. And for what is my regular price, recognizing this was the first time I taught it, I was like $333. And I was having palpitations and sweating armpits at the idea of 333. And one of the women who bought was like, oh, I really want to get it now before the price goes up. Like, amazing. And just having that number swirl around, the 222 was a stretch. My brain knew it was probably still a cheap price, but I'm like, just get started, right? This doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to be charging the most, and I don't have to charge air quotes appropriately. Get started, receive some money.
Yes.
Get going, test it out, see how it goes, see how it feels. So 222 for the first time. And as I'm about to relaunch it, it's going to be 333. I now know, and I am now ready to charge. I'm not 100% ready. I'm still having butterflies. I'm still having stress. I'm still procrastinating. But that's okay. And so going back to pricing, charge what you're worth, like it's a way of stepping forward and challenging yourself enough that you can do it, but not so much that you're too freaked out to put anything out. And there's a sweet spot in there, and you're going to hear all this noise of the numbers are wrong, you should charge more, blah, blah, blah. And you're going to have people pushing back, you shouldn't charge so much. And you have to just keep putting your hand on your heart and saying, I am okay. I am worth this. It is okay that some people think it's too little and some people think it's too much. And it's okay. And I'm just going forward. And it's like, I do so much gentle self-talk that way.
I love that.
Right? It is okay. I can do this. This is within my skill set. I can do this. People will love it. Try not to panic. Try not to panic. You've got this. You've got this. Yeah. Lots of gentle self-talk.
I've recently been doing more of that, like massaging my heart, actually. Like, it's not something I really ever did before, but probably about 6 months ago I started, and what a difference it makes, I feel like, in those moments where you're sort of like feeling not necessarily out of control, but just like freaking out a little bit. And I'll just like, I love that feeling. It feels so good.
Yeah.
Really
like
knew.
patting and, rubbing yourself round and round on your heart. It's deeply soothing. And I work with a neuroscientist, and this is actually like deeply comforting for mammals. Did you not pat your children like this? You might have rubbed their back, but our shoulders don't work that well
Someone
going
to
that
rub my
direction.
back for me again.
Yeah, but
This'll
unless you're a
do.
gymnast, you probably can't rub your own back.
It'll do in a pinch.
Yeah, and it's deeply soothing, and you can just keep grounding yourself, calming yourself,
Hmm.
because pricing stuff that comes from your heart is, I think it's very, very different than, my husband is a carpenter and he's preparing to open his own business and hang out his own shingle, and he's got 25 years of doing production and knowing how to do this and creating stuff for other people, and proving to himself that he does amazing work, proving to everyone that he does amazing work. So he's like, whatever, I'm just going to price it. If they don't like it, too bad. I'm like, you, I suspect you will find out it's more complicated than that.
Yeah. I
But
always in my quote unquote day job, my not so intuitive heart feeling work
mhm,
of building event registration websites,
mhm,
I always say my pricing is a mix of what someone internally would be paid to do that work, and it would take them longer to do it,
mhm,
plus what I perceive my competition to be, which would be the software themselves. And I have a
mhm,
rough idea of what they would charge for it.
mhm,
And then I come up with a number and then I sleep on it every time. Like, it's very scientific. This is how I price my stuff.
mhm,
And then I put numbers into a spreadsheet and I look at how they are looking as a total for the project. And I feel for my body, I'm also a generator in human design. So I feel
mhm,
answers in my body, right? And so
mhm,
I'll look at it and I'll feel into how how do I feel about sending out this proposal for some of those projects are have been $12,000 to I
mhm.
sent one out that I didn't get back in the fall, but that was a $47,000 proposal.
Yes, good job.
I didn't get the project, but I was
So,
like, you know what? I'm gonna do it because one, there's always also the logical side is like I would expect there's probably going to be some sort of negotiation,
mhm,
especially in that kind of a project.
mhm,
Um, but I also like it has to be worth my time and my energy and my effort to do this,
mhm,
to do that work. Um, and yeah, I mean, man, COVID year 2020, by the end of January, I had sent out proposals worth over $150,000. And I was
wow.
like, I was freaking out a little bit about how I was going to do all that work. But that,
Well, your answer is the work isn't going to exist. So
yeah,
there you go.
I know. The universe took care of that for me. No, no worries. But
There are
really, I'm
actually a
like, it's
bunch of
very
things, there are a bunch of
non-scientific.
parts of your story that I want to take apart. So, first, sending out a proposal for a big number, like 47,000, whether you get it or not, like energetically, I see this as stretching your container,
Hmm.
right? Because you've asked for 47,000 once, you can do it again. You've done it once. Maybe like for energetic entrepreneurs, it can be that you were pretty freaked out by the number, like on whatever level.
Hmm.
You were kind of like, holy shit, this is a lot of money. And that energetically can make it not really work.
Hmm.
Whereas if you were like, obviously, I'm worth 47, 55,000, it can it may be that that is part of the secret sauce of whether your proposal is accepted.
Hmm.
But bottom line, like stretching your container like that the first time you charge a bigger and bigger number, it's really important to like try it on. It's like trying on a bigger shell, it's trying on a bigger coat, it's trying on bigger shoes. Like, are you, can you try it on and check it out?
Hmm. I
And
think energetically too, I didn't actually probably really want that either. And that's also, I think, a part of
mhm,
so much a part of how we get or can
mhm,
get or not get the things that we put out there, right? I think in looking back, I was like, it was almost like less about the number, but I almost wanted it to be sort of a scary number, because if I was going to take on that project and that work, which they had sort of forewarned me that they're, the independent meeting planners, we're like the worst for over delivering and providing like way
Mm.
too much service and just
Yeah.
answering calls for our clients at all times of the day and being way too available. And I don't love that sort of culture, and it's really hard. But they like told me that that's the way that they work. Like, these clients are really high end, they're very needy, they're like, you're expected to like be on. And I'm like, if I'm going to be on, I'm going to charge for that, because that's really high stress that I don't really love to take on in my world.
Mhm.
But I think that also the energetics of like,
Mhm.
it would be a cool project, and I would love to get to do that type of work again, because it was for incentives that I
Mhm.
don't hadn't done in a long time. I hadn't done those websites and that project.
Mhm.
um I was excited to kind of get back into that, but I think I didn't energetically really want that work. It felt like it was going to be a lot harder
Mhm.
than I would have liked, or than I prefer to operate in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Uh,
that's a whole part of it too, right? Is your energy of, do do you really want this work? Do you want those clients? Do you want the success, which can also be scary?
well, and you've done a lot of work on your boundaries in your
Hmm.
personal life. And as you're
Hmm.
describing it, my interpretation is you're saying these people have no boundaries and they will
Hmm.
not respect your boundaries.
Totally.
They will expect to message you at 1 o'clock in the morning and expect for you to be available. And that's not what you're offering anymore.
Right.
And if they want you to completely compromise your boundaries, this is very much my interpretation.
Yeah.
You're like,
Feel free.
well,
Feel free to
cool. If I'm
cycle
on
in when.
call 24/7, guess what? You're paying for 24/7.
Right.
So good for you. And
It's okay.
yeah, easy come, easy go.
Yeah.
Uh, so I wanted to talk about boundaries, but I also
Mm.
wanted, I heard you saying you're putting down your costs, you're putting numbers in spreadsheets. And there are so many intuitive entrepreneurs, spiritual entrepreneurs that their pricing has nothing to do with the spreadsheet. And even as I told you the story of my numbers, there was nothing about what is it costing me to deliver this? So I want to back up because I am in a position where I mentioned in my intro, I've been financially free for a long time. So I
Hmm.
don't actually need this to make sure I have groceries and a roof over my head.
Yeah.
I'm very, very privileged that way. So I can charge 222 for 10 people and I have the space in my life and in my finances to do that. So I did not take the step that I would recommend for everyone of okay, so if I sell 10 spots at 222, that is $2,220. What does it cost me to deliver this? Well, in my mind, it's nothing because I
Right.
already have the content and I already pay for Zoom but that's not true
Right.
because there are operating costs to my business. I have a website. I have to pay for Zoom. I, I have things that I have to pay for. And even though we're going to be able to buy groceries out of a different account, it's still worth looking at that. And I've also watched people who are like, oh, I love being generous. I love over delivering. I'm going to send everyone a gift package. Well, okay, so time out on that. Being delightful and generous is wonderful. And profitability is even more wonderful, right? That
Hmm.
over delivering, when we take it apart as coaches, this is a worthiness thing. This is probably a voice inside you going, the content I'm offering, my time, my effort, my expertise isn't quite enough. So I also have to send her something sparkly and exciting and grounded and spiritual and mind blowing because what I'm going to teach her isn't yet enough.
Mm-hmm.
So the desire, the drive to over deliver, it's well worth sitting with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sit and feel into, journal into, why am I doing this? Why do I feel this drive? Do I feel like I have to compete with everyone else and everybody else is doing it, so I have to do it too? Which again is, I'm less than, I have to keep up, I have to be the same as
Right.
somebody else, which
Right.
is a total bullshit story.
Right.
Is it that I don't believe in my content enough? And that sounds very shameful, but like that's what it is. I don't yet believe that my services are good enough. And this is something that is gentle and delicate and will kill your business.
Mm-hmm.
The I'm not enoughness in pricing and delivering and over delivering and excessive generosity is, how many bonuses are you giving and how are you delivering them? If it's a pre-recorded masterclass, I have no problem with that as a bonus,
Right.
right? You've already done it. It's easy enough to grab it and send it out.
Yeah.
Great. Fabulous bonus. Does it mean you're sending them flowers every week for 6 months? No, I am not available for that. Stop it. Not
Well,
unless
this
they're spending 10 grand with you,
at
20 grand with
least, yeah.
you, right?
God,
Like
flowers are expensive. Also,
I'm exaggerating a little, but like seriously, this
but
is where
even
you
like
get
one
drawn to.
one set of flowers can easily
Yeah.
be 80, 90,
Hun-
$100, right? Like for one flower delivery. So even
yeah.
when you take into even like a $10,000 program over 6 months, like that's actually a lot of money. Like that's a pretty big cost, even one flower delivery, just as a side note. But the other thing as you're saying this, what's
Mhm.
reverberating in my ear is that you're actually not serving your clients either when you're over delivering and bombarding people with too much information because it's
Mhm.
too much for people to take in. So I love that you came up with that 6 week course. Well, the module
Mhm.
anyway, and then you're like, it needs more time, right? It
Yeah.
needs this one thing, even though I know it's not one thing, but like this one little thing I want to teach. It's too much for a 2 hour masterclass. It
Mhm.
needs the time. And I'm not going to throw in 17 other things that's going to really like be overwhelming for the student either. And I think that's a thing. I think we're talking about it more in the coaching industry, but I think that's a thing that like for a long time people weren't really feeling. They're like, I need to put more, I need to give more, I need to give more. And to your point, what I have is not enough. So I need to give
Mhm.
more. But then when you give so much, it becomes too much for the client, and then your clients and your
That
students are
is,
checking out and they're not completing the work and they're not getting the
well,
transformation and they're not learning anything because they're like, I'm not joining those calls, they're way too much.
yeah, I have someone I used to coach with, and on a million levels, she's amazing. However, I used to get really frustrated because I wanted a coaching package from her. I wanted one-on-one coaching, and that's what I was paying for. And then she would throw in a 4 month, once a week course on something, and then throw in another 6 months of training on this. So as I'm coaching with her for a year, it actually meant that instead of what I thought was going to be 90 minutes every second week,
Mm-hmm.
that was what I thought I was paying for with the amount. And that was what I wanted. I would also, and then she would teach these courses, and there'd be study groups, and there'd be extra stuff, and then come for the live shadowing and blah, blah, blah.
Ugh, you're
And
giving me
like
anxiety.
right? And when
It's
I
too
coached with
much.
her, it would end up being 6 hours a week to
Yeah,
do all
too
the
much.
things. And what I found, so, and then, like I'm in an intuitive journey. I need a lot of time to process. I actually like, if I pared back and didn't attend things, I would become resentful that I wasn't getting all the value, or I
Mm,
would have
mm-hmm.
FOMO. But I also realized that it was a way of distracting myself. So I wasn't actually doing work on my business. I didn't have time. If I'm in 6 hours of training a week, like part of me is like, what are you talking about? It's 6 hours a week, but it's a lot. If
That's
you
a lot.
imagine
Plus
you need
integration
time,
time and yeah.
that's what I mean, right? By the time you
So
integrate and you
much.
process, you're talking 20 hours a week. And then as a newer entrepreneur, it takes a lot of energy to get your new offers out there and get all your stuff done. Like it does end up taking all your time. And eventually I just said, I can't work with this person anymore, even though she's brilliant, even though she's amazing, even though her new offerings are really interesting,
Yeah.
because it just wasn't,
It's too
it was not,
much.
it wasn't serving me. So,
Yeah.
like, I will now implore anyone who's listening, your desire to over deliver is sabotaging on many levels.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to overgive and overgive and overgive and overgive, remember that Leanne and Tara have now stepped out. We loved you, we loved your offering, and we stepped out because you overgave and got
Yeah.
overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
I
And
literally
it's
became resentful that
yeah.
she was giving too many things.
And it's a lesson too as a student or a client or a consumer also to to hone in and listen to your intuition too and listen to your gut and it's so easy, I think, especially in the beginning of entrepreneurship when you're new to this world, everything's like shiny and fun and you want like to do all the things. And I remember, I think in like year 2 or 3, I was like, I made a commitment to myself. I was going to put my head down and I'm not going to sign up for any coaching, no programs, nothing. I'm just going to put my head down and do my work. And that was the best year I ever had when I didn't get distracted. But it's so hard not to, right? It's hard not to get sucked in. But the lesson I think really is in listening to your gut and listening to your energy and your time and you hit it right on the head. Like it's not serving your business to spend all of this time just learning and listening and being in groups and whatever. You're not actually working on your business, and it's important
Mm-hmm.
to be aware of how much am I in this program because it's actually helping me further my business, or am I using this just as a distraction to keep me busy
Mm-hmm.
and keep me entertained. And by the way, I say this because I have been doing this for way too long.
Well, totally. I
Distracting
also
myself,
say
I
it
mean,
without
like
shame. And this is
totally.
a hard fought lesson for me. This was
Very
not
hard.
easy
Mm-hmm.
because when you become an entrepreneur, accidentally, you didn't really intend to. I know so many women who have chronic health issues, or childcare wasn't available, or like COVID came, or like there's so many reasons why having a regular job doesn't work for you anymore. Your
Mm-hmm.
bosses wasn't were assholes, you got burnt out, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
You needed to move. You didn't want to live in the city anymore. You wanted to live somewhere small, and there's no local jobs available.
Mm-hmm.
So you become an entrepreneur because people tell you how amazing you are and you can do this, and or you've received coaching, you're like, oh my God, this is transformational, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is so amazing. I want to offer this out. And because you don't have an MBA and you don't have the knowledge of how to run a business and how to structure a business, which sounds kind of scary, and I don't really want to do that anyway, you end up in this weird place where people are feeding you things, and people are great marketers, right? This is what we learn. This is the chatter online: marketing, 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 marketing. And it's very enticing. And you end up like, oh, yeah, I don't know how to do that. Oh, I don't know how to do that. Oh, I don't know how to do that. Oh, I better take another course, another course. And while you're receiving all the information of this course, it can be a place to hide while you're building. You have the story of, I need this information, which
Yeah,
might be
building your
true,
confidence.
but you're also kind of like putting yourself out there is terrifying.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
And sitting and receiving is far less terrifying. So
Hmm.
you end up in this space of not being able to feed yourself with your business. Your business is costing a huge amount of money. I started referring to my business as a bad boyfriend because it was always taking, it was never showing up for me.
Hmm.
And you don't want that.
No.
There are ways to flip that cycle. There truly are. There are ways to flip that cycle, but it, like, energetically, it takes a lot,
Yeah.
right?
And I think I mean, I think it is a lesson that everybody, like, we all have to learn, like, we all have to go through it.
Mhm,
But yeah, it's really about like being brave enough and strong
mhm,
enough to say, all right, I did the thing. I went after the shiny objects and now I need to just put my head down and do the work. And I'm saying
mhm.
this as someone who needs to tell myself this like immediately because
Absolutely.
I've been distracting
Absolutely.
myself for 3 years now since COVID happened, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not in a great place. So, um I love this and I feel like as always we can always could
Oh,
continue for another
we could
27
talk forever
hours,
because
but
we didn't even talk about anything that I thought we might talk
I
about.
know. That's the way all of these conversations have gone, by the way. It's hilarious. And I love it. And that's the whole point.
I'm not surprised, but like, if I can just leave listeners with one nugget,
Yes, please.
it is do a fair bit of journaling, right? Journal and notice what is coming up for you when you are not doing the thing that drives your business forward, which is probably talking about your business and how people can buy from you.
Mhm.
You need to get really honest with yourself, and a coach can absolutely help you figure out, like, why is it I'm not talking about my business? That
Mhm.
is the one thing that will drive your business forward. Like, the one thing is talk about your business, tell people how they can give you money, right?
Yes.
Tell people what you do, and get very honest with yourself about why you aren't doing that. And that will make the difference between your business slowly sucking the life out of you versus your business being able to feed you and take you out on dates like a good boyfriend.
I love it. I love it so much. I have so many thoughts, but we're gonna wrap up. We'll have to just bring you back and continue this conversation and do all the other things
I
that we
like
probably should have done.
I
But
could talk about this all day because it's like it's so important that
mhm.
the spirit of entrepreneurialism is so fantastic, right? Most of us were that little 8-year-old selling gerbils, selling muffins on the street. Like, did you have little bake sales when you were little?
Yeah, I made
Right? Like,
cards.
right? There it is, the lemonade stand, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
Most of us have that in our past, and that beautiful, innocent, I'm going to go out and I'm going to charge for whatever is beautiful. And as an adult, you get a lot of layers under there, and it's so worth having these conversations, normalizing that your fears, your distractions, your desire to follow all the next shiny things and take all the courses, this is very normal. And
So
one day,
normal.
unfortunately, you will have to put brakes on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So normal, but so needed and so necessary to really get honest with yourself about the thing that you actually need. And easy to get distracted by the next shiny course and like, oh, that sounds so fun or that's cool or my friends are doing it. I fall into that a lot. But really get honest about, is this actually something that I need? Or am I feeling FOMO? Am I feeling pressure? Am I feeling like this is going to, like I need a distraction? Am I feeling not enough? All of those things I have felt in many of the things I've signed up for, right? And
Totally.
it's important to say, like, you know what, no, I actually don't need this thing. This is not for my highest good right now, and I don't need to be focusing on that. And that's hard. It's hard to do, but
Mhm,
it's important. It's like the most important thing, I think.
mhm,
Hard, man, but
mhm,
we all do it. We all buy all those courses. We don't complete them.
mhm.
We take what we
Or,
needed.
or almost as bad, you do complete and it turns into a new offering, but it's not an offering that actually came, like I'm like this with numerology. That's a perfect example. I was given numerology as part of something else. I did complete it. I did do all the work. I have offered numerology, but the thing is, there are other people who are so passionate about numerology. It is a wonderful tool. It is fantastic.
It's not your thing.
For me, it's actually been a distraction,
Yeah.
right? While
Which
I'm
is
trying to sell
hilarious because I'm,
numerology that I'm not passionate about, I'm not selling the things that actually are really meaningful to me.
yeah, which is hilarious because I'm stepping back into actually claiming doing numerology, which is so funny that you
Good.
use that as an example. Because I'm like,
Good. And
that's the
it's,
thing. It's to your point, I haven't talked about that offering for so long.
mhm,
Again, because I was just
mhm,
letting myself be distracted. And like a few days ago, I was like, I haven't even put this out there in like a year and a half, or talked about the fact that I love it and that I do it.
mhm,
And it
mhm,
totally lights me up, where it doesn't light you up, right? It's not the thing that's like the most fun and exciting for you.
mhm.
It's just so funny. I love it.
Yeah,
It's
it's
funny you use that.
interesting and it's zero judgment about numerology. It is a
Totally. Yeah.
fantastic tool.
Hmm.
Similarly, I'm not super excited about astrology. How many people love astrology?
Totally.
Like, little,
Not your thing. I would rather
yeah.
that you're teaching me how to manifest money and be a better steward of
Uh,
my money, really, quite honestly,
you
anyway.
know, I need to listen to my guides a lot more quickly because the course is so good. I'm so glad I finally took it apart.
I'm so proud of
And
you.
thank you. Like the next iteration could be that it wants to be a 6-month program where we go way deeper. Who knows? Maybe that'll come.
I
But
love
for
it.
now, it's already growing. It was started at 5 weeks. It's grown to 6 weeks, and it as of last night, it's growing to 7 weeks. So that's how much content there is. I was trying
Yeah.
to deliver it in 75 minutes. It was crazy.
I love that. And I love that you're giving it the space to grow and evolve and turn into what it needs. And that's also the whole thing about doing sort of a beta run, right? That first run is really about just being rough and scrappy and letting
Yeah.
it figure out what it needs to be and how it's best delivered. And I love that you're doing that. I'm so freaking proud of you for doing it and
Thank
putting it
you.
out there. And you did the launch, you put the thing out there. It's freaking
Mhm.
terrifying. I know it's a scary thing, and I'm just here to tell you that I'm really, really proud of you for doing that. And I
Thank
love that
you.
you
I
did it.
received that.
You're
Because, yeah,
welcome.
you know what it's like to put an offer out
Hmm.
and to
It's
be scared to
terrifying.
stand behind it. And
Hmm.
so, yeah,
I love that
once
you did
again,
it.
go ahead and offer it for too cheap the first time and
Yeah.
like just get it going and get your feet under you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. All
Mhm.
right. Thank you, Tara, for joining
Okay, my
us
friend.
today. I love
It was
this.
so good. This was a good
So
conversation and nothing like what I thought we were going to talk
such a
about.
good conversation, but that's what this whole podcast is all about, just
Yeah.
seeing where
Well,
the
I look forward
conversation
to
goes.
being person number 15 or so next time. And
So
we can, who knows what we'll talk about next time.
I know, who knows? I mean, that's what's so fun about this. It's just
Mhm.
conversations with cool people that I know and I love and I adore and I love spending time with. And it's not even like work anyway. So I love it. And I
Yes.
love you. And thank you for being here. And we'll be back for another episode
Mhm.
soon.
Okay, my friend,
All
you
right.
have a beautiful day. Thank you so
You
much for
too.
having me on.
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Ciao, everyone.